Strategy games are the best games to play if you feel like taking charge of something, running an economy, or driving an army across the fields of your enemies. It's also one of the richest and most diverse genres of PC games, which makes compiling a list of the best strategy games today a difficult task. Our list contains games from as recently as months ago, alongside classics from years ago. They're all strategy games we think you would love and could play right now. Have a look at our 20 picks for the best strategy games on PC. Number 20, They Are Billions. They Are Billions takes real-time strategy, tower defense and zombie survival, and combines it all into a single rewarding experience. In the game, you must colonize new outposts in the world around you, building new communities from scratch while protecting them from the hungry hordes. The special thing about this game is the way it keeps you scared and on your toes even during moments of relative peace, which keeps you coming back even after it defeats you time and time again. And more importantly, even after you finally complete it too. Number 19, Men of War. Men of War is a real-time tactics game that simulates every aspect of the battlefield, from the components of each vehicle to even the hats on your soldiers' heads. The developers have built a full-scale tactical game that simulates its world down to the smallest details. If you ever played an RPG with a giant inventory of clothes and weapons, Men of War will be enormously pleasing. Ammunition, weaponry and clothing are all persistent objects in the world. If you need an extra clip for your gun, you'll have to find it in the world rather than waiting for a random loot drop. And if you need backup or replacements for fallen soldier, you'll be able to find them in friendly squads who exist as actual entities on the map rather than as abstract numbers in a sidebar. Number 18, Northgard. This Viking-themed RTS pays dues to Age of Empires, but challenged us with its smart expansion systems that force you to plan your growth into new territories carefully. Weather is important too. You need to prepare for winter carefully, but if you tech up using lore, you might have better warm weather gear than your enemies, giving you a strategic advantage. Enjoy the well-designed campaign missions and then start the real fight in the skirmish mode. Number 17, Ultimate Admiral, Age of Sail. Fans of hardcore real-time strategies should check out Age of Sail. The game focuses on both land and naval battles. As a result, players are given a great experience. Age of Sail allows you to take part in the 1775 battles between the United States and the British Empire. During these clashes, you'll have the opportunity to command a fleet of warships and affect the course of sea battles. The ships also serve as a means of transport for your land forces, who join the fray shortly after they are dropped off onto the sandy shores. Keep in mind that the game can pose quite a challenge and requires mastering many complicated gameplay mechanics. But as long as you're willing to take the time and learn how to properly control your fleet and infantry regiments, the gameplay can be extremely rewarding. Number 16, Old World. Old World is a cross between Civilization series and Crusader Kings, which does sound amazing. The learning curve is pretty steep though, and there is a lot to read, and a lot of events about your dynasty will happen. Few games try to challenge Civ, but Old World already had a leg up thanks to designer Soren Johnsons, who was the lead designer on Civilization 4. But Old World is more than another take on Civ. Instead of playing an immortal ruler, you play one who really lives, getting married, having kids and eventually dying. Then you play the heir. You have courtiers, spouses, children and rivals to worry about. The game is full of events, plots and surprises. You might even find yourself assassinated by a family member. Number 15, Desperados 3. Desperados 3 is a great tactical stealth game that feels both familiar and fresh at the same time, reviving a sub-genre left dormant since the glory days of Commandos and adding an elegant, communicative interface and smart, interlocking character abilities, delivering a deeply engaging experience. The gameplay is simple to understand and get started with, and each stage puts players to the test, while providing a sandbox of open opportunities for players to experiment. While the style of the game might not be for everyone, for those that enjoy this genre, they'll be in for an absolute treat. Number 14, Warcraft 3, Reforged. Most notable today for being the origin for the entire MOBA genre, Warcraft 3 is also an inventive, ambitious strategy game in its own right. The pioneering inclusion of RPG elements in the form of heroes and neutral monsters adds a degree of unit-specific depth not present in its sci-fi counterparts. And the sprawling campaign delivers a fantasy story that is thorough and exciting in its execution. Number 13. World in Conflict. World in Conflict truly gets team synergy and coordination down with distinct combat roles, troop specialization, and team communication tools. Something many strategy games don't quite succeed in implementing. In addition, World in Conflict bothers to include a lengthy and meaningful campaign that actually has solid writing, compelling character arcs, and even impactful heart-wrenching moments. For all of its high quality, World in Conflict has made its mark with its fantastic tactical team gameplay that has yet to be topped. Number 12. Gears Tactics. Gears Tactics is a turn-based strategy game set in the popular Gears of War universe. It doesn't quite steal XCOM's crown, but the potential is clear. The game offers an interesting skill combinations between your squad members and rewards risk-taking. It also doesn't hurt that Gears Tactics looks absolutely stunning and tends to turn the usually quiet and tense tactics genre into quite a spectacle. An absolute must for Gears fans and also a worth addition to the library of any fans of turn-based tactics. Number 11. Europa Universalis 4. EU4 feels like a tent pole at the center of the world. Covering the period from 1444 to 1821, it allows players to control almost any nation in the world and then let them create history. A huge amount of the appeal stems from the freedom. EU4 is a strategic sandbox in which experimenting with alternate histories is just as entertaining as attempting to pursue any kind of victory. Providing the player with freedom is just one part of the paradox philosophy. EU4 is also concerned with delivering a believable world, whether that's in terms of historical factors or convincing mechanics. And it's one of the most credible and fascinating worlds in gaming. Number 10. Company of Heroes 3. Relic Entertainment is finally returning to its World War II RTS. But there have been significant changes. In Company of Heroes 3, the fighting is taking place across North Africa and Italy. There's also a dynamic turn-based campaign where you can pretty much do everything that's possible in the RTS layer. Whether that's dropping artillery strikes on enemy or sending engineers to deactivate mines. Other new additions include extremely customizable companies and detachments. You can add a medical detachment to a company and then summon a medical truck in the middle of the battle. Number 9. Total War: Three Kingdoms. Three Kingdoms takes a few nods from Warhammer, which you'll find elsewhere in this list. Giving us a sprawling Chinese civil war that's fueled by its distinct characters, both off and on the battlefield. Each is part of a complicated web of relationships that affects everything from diplomacy to performance in battle. It feels like a leap for the series, with some fundamental changes to how diplomacy, trade and combat works. The fight over China also makes for a compelling campaign, blessed with a kind of strength that we haven't seen in a Total War before. Number 8. Civilization 5. A titan in the field, Civ 5 stands as one of the best games ever released on PC. Whatever your strategic cup of tea, be it war, diplomacy or exploration, Civilization 5 has you covered. Civ 5 is arguably the one with the best combat in the Civilization series, thanks to the hexagonal board. The game is even further improved by its expansion packs, which improve the game in fundamental ways from culture and religion to diplomacy. If you're searching for kindness in Civilization 5, you'll have to set the game's difficulty down to the lowest setting. Because it's easily the most challenging game of the bunch and one of the best strategy games around. Number 7. StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2, which came out 12 years ago, remains one of the most popular in the genre. With healthy online servers and a wealth of campaign expansions. Choose one of 3 alien civilizations, Terrans, Zerg, and Protoss, and see them gather resources. Assemble your forces and defeat your opponent. The latest StarCraft 2 expansion, Wings of Liberty, is a fantastic conclusion to Blizzard's real-time strategy saga. With a varied single-player campaign, gorgeous cinematics, and friendly co-op modes, you'll see that StarCraft 2 is one of the best and most satisfying games ever made. Number 6. Crusader Kings 3. One of the best strategy games right now, Crusader Kings 3 is a huge grand strategy RPG, more polished and cohesive than its predecessor, with a big bag of new and reconsidered features. You travel back to medieval times to take control over a dynasty as you try to carve out a kingdom for yourself and your descendants. With one of the most in-depth simulations of medieval politics ever created. You'll be killing off relatives, getting stabbed in the back by your spouse. It's all just another day in CK3. Number 5, Total War, Warhammer 3. Warhammer 3 is the conclusion to Creative Assembly's Warhammer trilogy. It's also the strangest and most experimental, letting players leave the traditional Total War sandbox to journey through the realm of chaos. There's plenty to keep you occupied with an impressive campaign. The real treat, though, is the list of factions. The Chaos factions in particular are a delight, especially the Demons of Chaos, which not only lets you recruit units from every demonic faction, you even get a fully customizable leader. Warhammer 3 has proven itself not only the best Total Warhammer game, but possibly the best Total War game of all time. Number 4, XCOM 2. XCOM 2 is one of the finest strategy games of all time. And it's made all the more remarkable by how different it becomes with the War of the Chosen expansion. Your best soldiers will not be merely skilled in the use of weapons. They will become the Avengers, capable of the most absurd feats of sci-fi heroism. Better still, the base strategy layer is better than its predecessors. Single golden path of upgrades, allowing multiple different ways of staving off a slow death by resource drain. Number 3, Command & Conquer, Red Alert 2. Red Alert 2 remains one of the most intense and imaginative strategy games ever made. With a beautiful meld of both action and strategy that seems to hold a little something for everyone. The game has the best campaigns, most interesting units, great maps, and wonderful FMV sequences. The different factions are so distinct and have more personality than they did in the original game. Like Soviet squids and Allied dolphins. They found the right tonal balance between self-awareness and sincerity in the cutscenes. Red Alert 2 is an excellent example of everything that RTS games should be. Number 2, Sid Meier's Civilization 6. You can't have strategy games list without a bit of Civ. Civilization 6 is our game of choice in the series right now. Especially now that it's seen a couple of expansions. Cities are now these sprawling things, full of specialized areas, that force you to really think about the future when you developing tiles. The expansions added some more novel wrinkles that are very welcome, but do stop short of revolutionizing the series. They introduce the concept of Golden Ages and Dark Ages, giving you bonuses and debuffs depending on your civilization's development across the years. As well as climate change and environmental disasters. It's a forward-thinking modern Civ. And number 1 on our list is Age of Empires 2, Definitive Edition. Recently the RTS genre has been in a strange state of undeath, with titles from the early 2000s being resurrected. At their worst, these remakes and remasters are simply the bones of games left long behind by the evolution of the strategy genre. But at their best, they are Age of Empires 2, Definitive Edition. AoE 2 was superbly balanced, perfectly paced, and offered just the right mix of economic and military play. And the Definitive Edition made it even better. With 35 civilizations to play as, 24 campaigns, 136 single-player missions, and more multiplayer maps than we can count, and even a built-in training mode to get people up to speed for multiplayer. It's more than double the size of the original game, with hundreds of hours worth of fun. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel for more.